Yo, sup, this is NY3. Now, I don't know if you guys still play this game or have any interest in Duel Links at all, but since Zings is pretty good right now, I'm gonna make a video on it. So Zings has been out for quite a while now actually, probably got like almost 10 King of Games with Zings since its release on Duel Links. So yeah, it's a pretty decent deck, can definitely contend with all of the top decks. Although I wouldn't necessarily play it for something like Hyper Cup Stage 2, since that is a timed format where you try to rake up as many wins as possible over one weekend. And you know, Zings is a pretty grindy deck. Sometimes we have these 40-minute long duels that end in deck out. You know, in the same amount of time, you could have been playing something like Galaxy Eyes or something, going 6-4 and just getting more points than a single Zings win. So yeah, but the deck is pretty good. So yeah, anyways, onwards to the deck. So yeah, the skill we want to use is Holy Guard. You take no battle damage during your own turn, which is gonna let us crash our like 0 attack Zings into opponents for free, floating into Chi-Win, which we're also gonna crash into opponent for free, and then floating into something to defend your life points with. Essentially just getting Chi-Wins into the graveyard every turn for free, which is a +1. Since the main win condition of the deck is of course just making Baxia. If we try to make Baxia with Jiaotu, since there is no Zephyr in the game, Jiaotu is basically always gonna be using 3 cards to make the Baxia, whereas if you get Chi-Win in the grave, you can make it with Chi-Win plus only 2 cards. However, due to the lack of Zephyr and Bian in the game, the only way we can make a Baxia with Chi-Win plus 2 materials is Chi-Win, Big C, Tao Tai, which is why we're running the 1 Tao Tai. It's horrible to draw, but you have to do it if you want to make a Baxia like this. Or Chi-Win, Suani, Zefraxi. Again, Zefraxi is another card that's horrible to draw, so we're running 1 of it, but you have to float into this if you want to make Baxia with a Chi-Win. But yeah, anyways, yeah, we talked about the 2 bad ones to draw. Now the ones that you want to draw, we're maxing out on Jiaotu, Suani, Chi-Win, and Big C, so these are the good ones. And I'm just running Pulao as a 13th monster, since 13 monsters in 30 card decks give you a 91 point something% chance to open at least one of these floaters. Yeah, you want to open at least one of these floaters every game. If you don't, well, better hope you draw one. But yeah, Pulao is definitely the worst one. You're not going to be doing much synchroing with it, since it is level 1, so it's going to be very hard to make high level synchros with Pulao. So it's essentially just a floater. But I did want a 13th one in here. Now just to note, the deck is 30, so we've maxed out as the biggest you can go on Duel Links. The reason being, we do not have a Zings path in Duel Links yet, so it's quite easy to run out of floaters and lose because of it. So since all of the Zings do exactly the same thing, deck size doesn't really matter, so we just max out the deck and max out the number of floating we can do per game. The last monster we have is the White Princess, so for those of you not up to speed with current Duel Links, it is the best hand trap. Can be discarded at any time to reduce the attack and defense of all monsters on the field by 300 times its rank or level until the end of the turn. Yeah, so it's the best hand trap in the game. It serves multi-purposes in the Zings deck here. 1, being revivable of Baxia. Now it can use this effect by tributing itself off the field. So yeah, Baxia reviving a White Princess every turn is pretty decent. It's got 1600 attack, so with Baxia, Baxia is usually going to be Suani boosted to 28. So that is a 4k OTK right there. And if they do survive your Baxia plus White Princess OTK with a hand trap of their own, for example, the White Princess is going to make you pretty safe to survive the next turn. The other thing is, since we don't have Bian or Zephyr, admittedly they are pretty good cards for Duel Link standards to have. So yeah, I think that's why Konami didn't put them in. But unfortunate side effect is we are severely lacking in high level main deck monsters to make your high impact, high level extra deck monsters like Baxia here. So yeah, if Taotai, all three Suwanis, and Zefraxi have been used either for float, or if you just simply open too many of these and discarded them with Jiaotu. But yeah, if you run out of these guys, you kind of can't make any more meaningful plays that game. And your White Princess being just a level 3, although not Worm, but it is a level 3, kind of helps with that issue a bit as well. Now for the spell traps, 3 Book of Moon, best spell trap in the game right now. 3 Fiendish Chain, also pretty good, although it sometimes clog back rows, but it also has its advantages, which I'll get into later on. Needle Sealing is one of I'm testing right now. It's been doing pretty well. Shadow and Light Imprisoning Mirror, these run these based on the meta, but usually metas are pretty heavily stacked with light and dark monsters. Of course, if you open the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, you're going to be playing a very Chiwen focused game since Jiaotu can't float. And if you open the Light Imprisoning Mirror, you're going to be playing a very Jiaotu focused game since the Chiwen can't float. But yeah, the Light Imprisoning Mirror shouldn't really affect your Baxia that much, since most of the time you are making it trap immune with the Big C. Yeah, 2 Oasis of Dragon Souls. Now these cards are very good mid and late game, but they do absolutely nothing early game. And this deck, if you survive turn 1, you're basically going to win the whole duel. The main weakness that this deck has is, you set one Yangzing and they use the non-battle, non-removal method to get rid of it and just attack for 4k, like 4k is nothing. Any deck can do that. And yeah, you're dead. So if you make it past turn 1, you can set a second Yangzing. Now when you have like 2 Yangzings on the field, not many decks have an answer to 2 monsters like that they have to get rid of by non-destruction, non-battle methods. So yeah, if you make it past turn 1 and get like 2 normal summons of 2 Yangzings, you're pretty safe for the rest of the game. And the Oasis doesn't help you in doing that. Oasis is pretty similar to Creation, Yangzing Creation, in that aspect is like, they're pretty decent, but they don't help with the deck's main shortcoming, which is getting out of turn 1. Now this is slightly better than Creation, since again, you don't want to overfloat and like have none of these guys left to float into. So yeah, Recurring from the Graveyard is slightly better, and it's more proactive into getting the right materials on the field for a quick Synchro Baxia on their turn. Yeah, if you run out of these guys, drawing the Oasis is kind of your last hope. And the last trap we have in the deck is 3 Skill Prisoner. So Skill Prisoner goes really well with Yangzings. Usually if you set a Yangzing and set a Skill Prisoner, you're pretty much invincible, since there aren't that many ways to remove a monster that doesn't care about dying by effects, doesn't care about dying by battle, and now it can't be targeted by monster effects. Like, that's a pretty solid defensive matchup. Most of the time, if I open 1 Yangzing, a Skill Prisoner, and like 2 good back rows, I wouldn't even set the 2 good back rows. That's just how confident I am with like a set Yangzing, set Skill Prisoner pass. And then on your opponent's turn, they'll probably be like, oh, 1 back row, I'll just MST it. And you just got a +1 because you chain it on your Yangzing. You're almost guaranteed to not die that turn, and they just wasted the MST. When the turn rolls back around to you, you can set your actual back rows, and yeah, they just wasted their MST. So yeah. Anyways, for the extra deck Trishula, this is a new card. Taking this spot before used to be Samurai Destroyer. This card here. I figured I might as well replace it with Trishula, because what this role of Samurai Destroyer in the deck was pretty similar to Trishula, which is getting rid of cards that like was immune to everything, you know. So yeah, Samurai Destroyer, Trishula, they just a card in the extra deck that can pretty much get rid of any problem. Yeah, 2 Baxia. This is the main win condition of the deck. I used to run 1 since most of the time, like if you make a Baxia, you've won. But occasionally there are some pretty stubborn duelists that need a second Baxia to die. So yeah, I put the second one in there since that was coming up quite a significant amount of time. Yazi, this is a new card in Duel Links. It has 2 main roles in the deck, I guess. One is sometimes you open an awkward hand when you just open like Jiao 2 and like 3 other Yang Zings. If you're just like setting a Yang Zing and passing with nothing, you're probably gonna die. So, and before there were no good extra deck monsters to summon, but yeah, now we have Baxia. You can make it 3100 and it can't be targeted, and just pray that your opponent doesn't have an out. So yeah, it gave the deck kind of a first turn play for once, instead of just like setting and passing. The other thing is, yeah, you can quick synchro for 2 material Baxia pretty easily with this. So if you have a Yazi on the field and a Chiwin in the graveyard, you can just normal summon any Yang Zing. Yazi, pop the Yang Zing, pop something of theirs, float into a Yang Zing with a floating with a quick synchro effect, and float the Chiwin out of your graveyard. That way on your opponent's turn you can quick synchro with the Yazi and Chiwin into a Baxia spinning 2. It's pretty decent disruption for minimal resources invested. Vulcan the Divine. Now this is the most essential card in the extra deck, outside of the Baxia of course. Now what Vulcan the Divine does is on synchro summon you can bounce one of their card and one of yours. So yeah, this is where the continuous traps come in. Like a floating Phoenix chain, if you bounce it with Vulcan, that's pretty good value. Of course, you could also be popping Phoenix chains with Baxia if you don't have any, you know, Yang Zings to pop, because Yang Zings are the best things to pop. But if you don't, floating Phoenix chains are the second best thing to pop. But yeah, what Vulcan the Divine is here mainly for is when you Baxia spin the entire field and you normal summon a Yang Zing, Baxia pop the Yang Zing, you wanna reborn and float into Suwani plus Jiao 2. So you have a field of Jiao 2, Baxia, Suwani. The Suwani and the Baxia together are over 4000 attack, so that's threatening game onto the empty field. However, if they do survive with a hand trap, you have the Suwani and the Jiao 2 on the field to quick synchro into Vulcan the Divine on your opponent's turn for some disruption. Vulcan the Divine, even if you don't have a Phoenix chain, Vulcan the Divine can bounce itself and the opponent's card, so it recycles itself back into the extra deck, and next turn you can just do it all over again, normal summoning Yang Zing, pop it with Baxia, summoning Suwani and Jiao 2 again, threatening game again with 4k, while maintaining the ability to disrupt should they survive. And the last 2 cards in the extra deck, Amadis and Alloy of Justice Catasta. These are just the best low-level synchros that you can make with Chiwin and one other card, like Suwani. Now, the Samsara, Dragon of Rebirth, has come up quite a few times now actually, but there's just not enough space to run it. Another 2 good cards that I used to run would be the Powered Insectron, which on the turn and summon you take no damage, so if you quick synchro into this, you're guaranteed to survive that turn. As well as the Tatsunoko, which is unaffected by monster effects. So both of these cards I tried out when Gandora was really popular, since Gandora banishes your entire field and just attacks for 4k. So if you make a Tatsunoko or Powered in Zectron and survive their big OTK turn, and then on the following turn you set a Yangzing. That's pretty hard for them to get over, so yeah. But I don't think Gendora is like much of a problem anymore, not many people play it, so I took these cards out. But Tatsunoko is pretty good. It has a lot of utilities in the deck if you do decide to run it. One being able to make Baxia if you draw the Taotai. Another is just having a level 3 tuner in the grave that you can revive with Baxia and Oasis. Does give the deck like quite a much easier time going into our higher level synchros. So yeah. And I also used to run the Metaphys Horus. That got replaced when Yazi came out. So Metaphys Horus was a worm mainly. That's the main reason I ran it. Was a intermediate like worm to synchro climb into Baxia that had a decent effect. But now Yazi fills that spot much better. So anyways, that's the deck. We can go ahead and just have a look at some replays that I've managed to gather up. Now this replay here, I believe was a Yangzing replay. Yep. So this one was against Infinity. Now my opponent was playing a very cool deck. He's going first and probably set up the most number of negates that I have ever seen for a Duel Links deck, like ever. So yeah, very cool deck. But we were still able to win somehow, since our opponent, I guess, didn't really know how to deal with the Yangzings floating, especially not knowing how to make Yangzings miss timing with their Infernity Break, which was the main contributing factor for me breaking their field. But yeah, this was back when I still ran Goyoku. I think it is the best form of spell trap removal for Yangzing, since it does have the interactions that I described with Baxia and Beast Lord Vulcan with Phoenix Chain, but you can do it with Goyoku as well. So you can Goyoku lock a back row, and then Jiao2 into Baxia spinning everything, and then Baxia popping the Goyoku for game. But yeah, our opponent managed to set up a break, a barrier, and a Photon Strike Bowser, so 3 negates at least, as well as an unknown back row, which I went ahead and Goyoku'd. And yeah, here we have the Skill Prisoner coming in clutch, because if the Brownic bounces out only Yangzing, we basically lost. Now here is, we're just going with the game plan, so we're, crashing Chi-Wins, getting into the grave, and on the following turn, crashing Yangzings, getting the Chi-Win out of the grave, setting up Big C Taotai Chi-Win into Abaxia play. On our opponent's turn, spinning the whole field and reviving Suwani for 4k, and our opponent conceded. So yeah, let's have a look at some other Yangzing replays. I believe this one was a Yangzing replay. Okay, so this was one against Metaphys, which is a pretty good deck. Yeah, this was another one from back when I was running the Goyoku. Now the reason that I dropped the Goyoku is because I don't really feel like Yangzing loses to back row that much, so I just dropped all forms of back row removal entirely. Yeah, our opponent's doing Metaphys stuff. They got the Alkahest for the interruption on my turn, and they also have the double piercing Orichalc Good thing I set a 2k defense Zings, or else I'd be dead, or I guess more realistically I would be forced to waste the back row, stopping the Orichalc. But yeah, as you can see, we just used our skill for taking no damage, crashed a couple of Zings to get the Chi-Win in the graveyard. And here we are gonna float the Chi-Win out of the graveyard to make the Baxia much easier. So we're gonna lock the full Metaphors fusion so they can't send their Orichalc into the graveyard and popping one of our cards on our turn. And yeah, just Baxia revive Soani for a clean 4k OTK. And I think the last Zings replay I have should be this one. Okay, so this one is against Burning Abyss. Yeah, this should be against Burning Abyss pre-nerf, so this is Burning Abyss at its full power. And they open basically the standard play. I did open Light Imprisoning Mirror. I think it's slightly better than Shadow Imprisoning Mirror against Burning Abyss. Although a lot of Burning Abyss players were on Galaxy Cyclone, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, here the Skill Prisoner is gonna come and clutch against the Farfa that opponent's gonna keep sending. We go ahead and make Baxia. Baxia is unaffected by Light Imprisoning Mirror as well as my opponent's Skill Prisoners due to the immunity granted to it by Pixie. Yeah, and it's just gonna spin their whole field. The Dantes can't even recycle since due to Light Imprisoning Mirror, and yeah, they just don't have the resources to continue, even though I had 4k with the Baxia revive anyways. So yeah, that is all for the Duel Links Zings deck. Hope you enjoyed it.